Now, during the debate earlier this week, Donald Trump had actually exposed his sort of sociopathic immigration plan by praising President Eisenhower's deportation plan. Now, do you know what that deportation plan was called? It was called Operation Wetback. Now, that whole thing is so brazenly racist, right, that even Bill O'Reilly was uncomfortable with it.
I like Ike. Remember, I like Ike? You were around then, right?
I like Ike.
I like Ike.
Right. A lot of people like Ike.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, he deported, as you rightly pointed out, about 1 million, maybe a little bit more, illegal aliens back in the early 50s. Do you know what the program was called?
Well, now they think it's 2.2 million.
All right, whatever it might have been. Do you know what the program was called?
I do, but I wouldn't use the term. I don't like the term at all.
No, that's in English. But the formal thing is the Bracero program. Bracero program allowed Mexicans to come in here during World War II to work in our defense industries and in our agriculture because we had a labor shortage. And then what happened was that a lot of people poured across the border, and the Eisenhower administration said, look, you're corrupting the Bracero agreement we have, so we're going to haul you back. But believe me when I tell you, Mr. Trump, that was brutal what they did to those people to kick them back. I mean, the stuff they did was really brutal. It could never happen today.
I've heard it both ways. I've heard good reports. I've heard bad reports. We would do it in a very humane way.
Oh, really? You've heard good reports? Where? From Stormfront? Good reports about this. No, there are no good reports from this. None. And I'll get into that. But he also says, look, we can do it in a humane way. We can deport 11 million people in a humane way. Really? I don't see how that's possible. And besides, where have we heard that before? Pretty sure everywhere we've heard it, it ended up not being humane. How would Donald Trump be different? The answer is he wouldn't. This is sort of like taking a dog, right, out for a drive to the middle of nowhere to drop it off so it wouldn't find its way home. Except, in this case, you're doing it with actual human beings. With rights. I don't understand. Some of who got deported back in the 1950s during this operation were actual American citizens that happened to be Hispanic and Latino. And they didn't have enough proof to get back in the United States. And you know what happened? In a lot of these cases, their property was stolen, they were kicked out of their homes, and they were dropped in the desert without food. Middle of the desert. Some accounts have them trapped in ships that were akin to slave ships on their trips back to Mexico. And you know, this even caused the death of 88 workers. 88 deported workers died because they were trapped in 112-degree heat. And here's the other thing. This isn't the first time we've done this to a group of people. We actually did this to the actual Native Americans. We also deported them. You remember the Trail of Tears? We took them from American lands and put them on reservations. It's awful. It's awful what we've done to people. But no, you know, Trump, totally in support of that. I like Ike. Man. And look, this is second only to the wall, right? Now, the wall, O'Reilly supports, right? But he's actually not in support of this. He's like, no, that was brutal. These people, later on in the segment, he argued with Trump to say, look, man, these people have due process. You can't do this to people without giving them due process. Even Bill O'Reilly is the rational, the reasonable one in this circumstance. That's amazing. That's amazing. And as I said, here's the thing, right? About this whole thing that Trump supports. It didn't even work the first time. Oh, they got him out, and then they came back in. even after all the times that they did this, it still didn't work. Do you know why it didn't work? Do you know why it failed to stop illegal immigration? Because people came back because American growers wanted cheap labor. American growers and American corporations wanted cheap labor. So that they recruited these people who were just looking for a better life to come to America. In some instances, the people who kept coming back, some guards would end up shaving their heads so that they know which one that they've deported once before. That's awful. And American companies, they did this because they didn't want to pay people wages. So look, here's the thing, right? If you agree illegal immigration is a problem, and it is, I think it is, maybe instead of, rounding people up, which you can't possibly do in a humane way, instead of doing that, instead of doing mass deportations, maybe we should go after private businesses that recruit undocumented immigrants and exploit them for cheap labor. Also, why don't we give everybody a pathway to citizenship so they can legally work here for actual wages, right? Pay taxes and not drive down wages for everyone else, and benefit Americans. Maybe if we do that and stop the flow of cheap labor to corporations and stop them from exploiting people, we can actually start to solve the immigration problem instead of putting up walls and trying to do to immigrants what some assholes do to an animal that they don't want. Because that's what you're doing. You're treating people as if they're animals.